All right, I think we have enough hands. I think it's time as well. Let's get started. Okay, hello and welcome to everyone who has joined us for this LambdaTest webinar. Always a pleasure to host a great audience. Before we get started, let's take care of a few housekeeping items. This session will be an hour long, so in case you need to drop off early, this webinar is recorded and it will be shared with you later on over your registered email address. You can also find the full recording of this webinar and the previous ones that we did over our YouTube channel. So in case you're not already subscribed to LambdaTest, make sure you do that right away. And we would love to hear from you. So if there's anything that you would like to ask while the presentation is going on, by all means, feel free to throw your thoughts in the chat box or in the YouTube chat as well. And we'll be picking your questions and concerns towards the end of this webinar, where we'll have a dedicated Q&A round. And having said that, I will now quickly present my screen. Andreas, could you confirm if my screen is visible?
Yes, it is visible.
All righty. So, and you can, we'll get to the nitty gritty of SpecFlow and everything that you can do with it. And we have none other than, one of the community managers with us, Andreas ۋɪᴅᴇᴏ, who has been with SpecFlow ever since, it began. Andreas has been one of the early users there. And he has almost 10 years of experience in managing BDD frameworks for small and large applications alike. Apart from that, Andreas has also been, a contributor to, considering his excellent contribution and community leadership skills, he has also been awarded to Microsoft MVP award. And having said that, hi, Andreas, it's great to have you here. And by any means, if I missed on to anything, feel free to introduce yourself to our viewers.
Hi, everybody. I think you said everything. It's a pleasure that I'm here, and I'm excited that I can show you SpecFlow.
Awesome. So this is me, Harshit Paul, Product and Growth Manager at LambdaTest. And having said that, let's quickly hop onto today's agenda. We'll be starting off with what is SpecFlow. We'll get to know what it is, why do we need SpecFlow, why you prefer it over other BDD frameworks, how you can organize and create well-maintained BDD tests while using SpecFlow, where the actual advantages lies with it. And we'll have an in-depth overview of SpecFlow Plus. And after that, we'll have a straight deep dive demo where Andreas will be taking the stage and, from the get-go after this agenda discussion, and he'll be demonstrating everything amazing that you can do when it comes to SpecFlow. And at the end, when we run the test over Lambdas, that's where I'll be coming in. We'll be talking about and looking to know, how you can leverage LambdaTest as a platform to make sure that your tests spin up against multiple browsers and operating systems at the same time. And we'll also be looking at parallel execution towards the very end to make sure that your tests are running faster than they should. So having said that, that's it for today's agenda. And I will now pass my screen to you, Andreas.
Thank you. So let me quickly share my screen. Get everything up again. So let's get started. I'm trying to have the slides as quick as possible that we get to the real stuff and see something in action. So first, what is SpecFlow? SpecFlow is a tool for a technique, a process, pattern called behavior-driven development. We'll talk a little bit more about it later. And it's there for the test automation part. Behavior-driven development has multiple parts, and one is automation, and for that you can use SpecFlow. It uses the Gherkin language to describe scenarios features. You can write your scenarios, your tests in a natural language and not in a code. See also more for that later. And it works, and it's SpecFlow is for the .NET framework, and it works with the .NET framework, the classic ones with after 4.6.1. We're also supporting .NET Core since 2.1, and we also support .NET 5. And the team is already looking into .NET 6 support. So always looking to be on the stuff what is currently supported. SpecFlow also has multiple products, tools, parts. Not that easy. Some of them are open source. So SpecFlow, the core, is open source. It's on GitHub available. We also have extensions for various IDEs, one extension for JetBrains Rider and one for Visual Studio. And also both of them are open source, also on GitHub. And we have also some closed source software, but they are free. So you don't have to pay anything for that. This is one time the SpecFlow Plus Runner. It's a specialized test runner for SpecFlow. And SpecFlow Plus Living Doc is a tool to generate living documentation. It's a little bit of a test reporting thing. So if you know test reporting, I will show it to you later. I will show to you everything except Rider because I'm doing the demo in Visual Studio, but all the things will be then shown in the demo. Then it's a little bit more easier to see what it is. So back to the start. So what is behavior-driven development? So it's a practice to build a shared understanding of requirements. It's about collaboration, that the whole team, but also the stakeholders and shareholders, your customers, have a shared understanding what the application should do. And this is fulfilled. You can get to this. It's working with concrete examples. There's a technique called specification by example, and with working with these concrete examples, you can then automate them with tools, and you get them to a living doc. So in behavior-driven development, you have, so depending on who you ask, 3 to 4 phases. You start with a discovery phase. It's a brainstorming phase where the team sits together, parts of the team, the customers, and discuss how the feature should behave for edge cases. And they discuss it not at the end. You don't have it in an abstract form. You have it in concrete examples. And with these examples, you try then to formulate your Gherkin scenarios, that you have them written down in English, Portuguese, French, German. I think Gherkin supports about 70 languages now. So you can use the language you're using in the project, not limited to only English, and describe the concrete scenarios. After that, you can automate the scenarios, and this is then where SpecFlow comes into place. SpecFlow helps you to automate these scenarios. And the 4th phase is called verification, where you look if this is really working, what you did there. There's where Living Doc comes into place. The course, SpecFlow Core, the open source product, is here in the automation phase. Our other products we have, like the Living Doc, is for verification. And yeah, we're mostly in these 2 phases with our tools. One question I'm always getting asked is, talk about BDD, is, okay, what is the difference to TDD? Because it's something else with DD. There are a lot of DD things out there. And for me, BDD is an enhancement to DDD more. So in test-driven development, you have your loop, your red-green loop. You start writing a failing test, make a test, make it pass, and then refactor your code. And you do this in a loop. And this is mainly a developer test. You do this for also that you don't implement too much, but it drives a little bit your architecture. BDD adds a second round around this, where it's all about the features. You start writing a failing feature in Gherkin, this is red. Then you try to implement this in a TDD cycle, make it pass, and then you can refactor again. And then you start the next feature. So as always, that's optional. Nothing forces you to use this approach, but this is the ideal approach, what the books says, and to get the best out of it, that you only implement really that what is needed, and have it not only covered with more programming test, but also from a business, from a customer side, feature side, that it's behaving correctly. And the question is always why you use SpecFlow. There are some other BDD frameworks for the net out there. One thing, yes, I'm unbiased, but still, the big point for SpecFlow is that you describe your scenarios in a natural language. All the other BDD frameworks out there, these are only nice APIs around something. It's always still developer-centric. BDD is not only about developers, it's about the whole team to make a shared understanding. And to get a shared understanding, everybody should be able to read the scenarios and understand them. Doing this in only code, also with a nice API, it's still limiting the people to read it. Perhaps they can understand it because it's nice API, but there's still the hurdle, oh, I have to open an IDE. I have to get the files out of source control. With other tools like SpecFlow plus Living Doc, you can get your scenarios out of the IDE, out of your version control, and give them to people and make it more accessible. That's the main reason why I think you should SpecFlow and not some other BDD-related framework for .NET. Yeah, we're supporting all .NET testing frameworks, so you perhaps know XUnit, NUnit, MS Test. We are all supporting them. Also, some BDD frameworks are limited to only one of them. As much as possible, we are supporting them equally. Some have different features, what others not have. We try to get everything working everywhere. Sometimes it's not possible because it's not there, but all three are equal. And perhaps with combination with BDD and Gherkin, you have perhaps already the name Cucumber. So Cucumber is where it all started, I would say, and SpecFlow is the official .NET implementation of Cucumber. Because of reasons, we are not called Cucumber.NET, but this is history. But we are the official implementation. So if you know Cucumber from Java, JavaScript, or so, SpecFlow is that for .NET. So I often said Gherkin, and we write it in Gherkin, but what is Gherkin now? How does it look like? I give you now a quick crash course of all the things that's there. So not really nice is Gherkin is, it's not I wouldn't say it's a programming language. It's a language with some keywords. Definitely not programming language. There are no ifs, there are no loops, it's straight down. And every Gherkin file, it's a feature file, starts with feature and the title. That's how it starts. You give it a title. Then you have a possibility to have a feature description, can give that additional information there, doesn't affect anything of the automation, but to give more context about the feature, that can be nicely used, and you can also use Markdown here. And then it really begins with the scenario. Scenario is, it's a test case. No, I wouldn't say it's a test case, but it's similar to a test case. That's the scenario is the concrete example how the application should behave, and every scenario has a title. In this case, we have a calculator example, so the scenario is add two numbers. Also, a scenario can have a description, and which doesn't affect any of the automation. And now it gets started. Now we have three important keywords in a scenario, and you define there the so-called scenario steps. And the first keyword is given, and then we have also when and then. And here starts the steps, what you then automate them afterwards. And I'll show you later how it's done. And given is, if you know, perhaps from unit testing, the AAAs arrange, act, and assert. Given is the range part. You describe the context of the system, what is everything set up. Then, because only one given is often not enough. So you need to set up more. Yeah, there's also the AND keyword where you can combine them. But it's not a special keyword. It's simply it's more for having a nice sentence, because given I have entered 50 into the calculator, and then given I have entered 70 into the calculator, if you read this, it doesn't feel right. Not a round sentence. So you can use also here an and this means that this is also a given step. Then we have when, that's the act part, there where you execute the action, what is then asserted in the then step. So at the calculator, we have our two givens with the context. We enter these two numbers, we press add. It's a special calculator. It's not a classical one. We have it in the demo the same way, then it's perhaps a little bit more easier to understand. And then that's where the assertion is made. We have that's the basics. Then there are some additional things around. You can have tags. These are here. They start with an add, and they are for grouping scenarios or for filtering. You can quite easily filter, and then you could also adjust your automation with that. This is more an advanced topic. What you also can have is this is okay. Is scenario outlines with an example table. So what is here now? You have here examples with a table, and you can use these parameters now here in your steps. And so you don't need to duplicate, add two numbers, and you don't need to duplicate these 3 times with different values here. You make add an example table, use the parameters here, and define the examples at the end, so you don't have to duplicate a lot of things. Good, absolutely crash course in Gherkin. There's a lot of there is a learning curve. So to be able to really write good scenarios takes time. I'm after 10, 12 years of using it, I'm still getting new ideas and have new things when I'm writing scenarios, how to better formulate them. So there's always something new. What we tried, we knew this, and what we did is on our website, we have in the learn section, given when then with styles challenge, where we have different problems and how you formulate them. So if you want to learn more about this, go to SpecFlow.org on the learn, and given when then with style, and then you find a lot of content that gets you started in writing these Gherkin scenarios. But it's a lot of stuff to read. I give you 3 good practices for writing feature files, the basic ones. What is quite hard at the beginning is finding a suitable abstraction layer. Let's have a look at on the left side. The scenario is called be able to access the admin dashboard. And we have here quite a verbose scenario. We have given, open the login page, then you enter in a field a username, you enter in a field the password, you press a button, you log in, then you click on dashboards, you click on admin, and then I see the admin dashboard. Quite verbose, quite bound to how your application looks like. So it assumes that you have a username and password field. But what happens if you ditch that and make now only with a Google account where you only have the Google button? This would you need to change your whole scenario. But the steps, only because some detail in your application change, but the scenario be able to access the admin dashboard should still work. So, and it's also quite technical. So one thing what you can do is you can combine them and move this into your automation. So we could combine these 4 steps into one. Given I'm logged in with administrator privileges, when you read, you know this is done, and when you read that, you see that, and how your UI looks like, or it's independent. You do this in the automation layer. It would be enough if you simply change the IDs on your web page that this will break, and you need to change the scenarios. But the scenario, but the how the application behaves doesn't change. And needing to change a scenario only to get it green, but there was no behavior change in the application, is always a little bit of smell. So here it's independent. And also the second one, this is depending on menu structure. If you change, how often does it happen? You change the menu structure. This would break when I try to have a look at the administration data. This will also break when you run the scenario, but to get it green, you only have to adjust your automation layer, not the scenario. Yeah, this is quite hard. This is the things where you probably needs the most time to get used to find the right layer to writing this. But it is worth it. This is understandable. You can give this to a user, end user, and it understands what it's doing. That has no idea about field IDs and anything. They understand this and can say, yes, this is correct how the application should work. Next thing is what we often see is that there are details in the scenario that are not necessary to understand the scenario. So on the left side, we have much more details than here. Like we have given the following users registered. I have three users here, but we only log in with one user and the password. So this is, first, we don't need the other two users. And you have this additional step where you have the application of the data. And if you change it once, you also have to change it the second once. In that case, you can make a given I'm logged in and let the automation do the rest. And in that case, we can also prove it to background. That's one I didn't mention before. Background, these are steps that are for all scenarios in the feature files. You only have to do it once. We'll write it once and have it for every scenario. And the second thing, what you can leave here is we have here a category writing review for the tasks. Probably you need this in the database because it's a required field, and so you get it there. But for the assertion, you don't need this category at all because we don't check it. So again, move it into the automation layer. This is noise. If you read this 5 weeks after you have implemented it, and you have to look at it and looking, okay, why do we need the category? It doesn't make sense. Leave it out, let the automation do the thing. And the easiest thing what you can do is make parameters visible. Like here, we good practice, what I recommend is use single quotes to make your parameters visible. It's helping, it's not only helping the IDE to support you better, but it's also when you're writing new scenarios and you can't remember every scenario after some weeks what you've written. Having these parameters visible that way is, you know, very quickly, okay, what parts you can adjust to other values and what not. Good. That was the theory. Now to the demo. So I'll quickly switch to Visual Studio. So I have here a project, a sample project created. It's in our GitHub examples repository. I'm sure we can share somehow the link afterwards. It's a normal .NET project with one project. In our case, we're using now a .NET Core 3.1 application. And this is how a small SpecFlow project looks like. We have some folders there. The important one at the start is the features folder, where we have all our feature files, and here we have our features scenarios, and again it's calculator. So we have the sample calculator that we already saw in the slides. Given the first number is second number, two numbers are added, the result should be. One thing to these scenarios, they are not good scenarios. This is an example to show you how SpecFlow is working on a technical tool side. Problem is, if I would write nice scenarios, I can't show you as half of the features that you need laterwards, because it would be you would need a very, very big project, and then it makes it complicated to understand. So this is an easy domain, it's calculator. So not that good written scenarios. As you see here, a scenario outline. I added here now 2 example tables. You can also have multiple, some failing examples, some passing examples. You don't do this normally in a project. I'm doing this now because I want to show you a lot of failing tests and how it looks like. So yeah, you have the feature file here. And because we have SpecFlow added to the project, so SpecFlow is done via some NuGet packages you add to your project. When you compile this, you get in your Test Explorer in Visual Studio and a test on the scenarios. Let's make this a little bit quicker, bigger. We have our first scenario, and then we have all the scenarios from the outline with failing examples and passing examples. And what this is doing here is we have hosted online, forgot about already the URL. Give me a moment. Page object. We have an online calculator website hosted. So now it's there, simple first number, 5s, the add button, and then it gets calculated. And this application we are testing. And so how is the automation done? So for all these steps, there is a step definition. And one of the IDE extension features is that we have navigation. So we can say go to definition. And then we have here our a normal.NET method, normal C# method with a special attribute here. And because and this is the matching between feature file, the step, and the code. You have here given and a regular expression, and this is matched with the feature. I'm putting this side by side. So we are matching because of the attribute given, and then we have here given the first number is, and then also the parameter here. And when this runs at, when we execute the test, SpecFlow sees this and execute this method, and then calls the implementation of it. And nice thing about SpecFlow is that you can automate everything you want. You need something that is callable from .NET, and it works. In this case, we are using Selenium with a cron driver and the page object pattern to automate the application. So it's given the first number is, we have a page object, and we have this enter first number method. What makes, now we have the Selenium API a clear first, and then we make a send keys. If you're familiar with Selenium, you know this. Also, we have here some properties with find element to find all the controls on the website. So page object pattern is in .NET the same as in every other language also, and we're using the WebDriver. So, but I'm only talking. Let's see if this is really happening. So I execute only one scenario because it takes time. I'm currently executing it locally. So popping up, done. Executed. you know how this works. So, but we come down LambdaTest into place. So what we can do now is, I need to change quickly a configuration, and I'll explain here a little bit later what this is doing. I need to rebuild the application. So I configured now the project to use LambdaTest. And in this case, we are using it, we are running it on a Chrome on Windows 10. And let's run all of them. So, and they're running. And their nice thing is, so in the background, so I'm doing this is running, I'll explain what's happening. We're using here the SpecFlow Plus runner, which has some nice parallel execution features. You see it also later more. And this is now running. And what's happening, what the configuration is. So one thing you use in SpecFlow is a so-called driver pattern. And this browser driver class is the class that manage all the web driver stuff. Here's the interesting part. So the first thing is, if there's no configuration, we fall back to local Chrome. And if there's a configuration there, we use a remote web driver to simply get access to LambdaTest and execute it there. So if you have a look now at LambdaTest here, we see there are in this build in Chrome Win 10, there are scenarios running, and we're getting all the results back. So this is the normal setup from LambdaTest, what you're used to. You need to set some capabilities for username access key, have to build them. You can also adjust this and connect to the remote driver and done. So 20 lines of code, getting from your local Chrome to your cloud hosted Chrome on multiple machines. Nice. Yeah, we have some failing tests. We have some good tests. We have the exception, what is happening here. It doesn't like. There should be 182 as a result. Good. Now we have these execution results there. It's nice, but you have this in the CI system and so. But I said BDD in SpecFlow is all for collaboration. I mentioned Living Doc. Now I want to show you Living Doc. So one thing to create, use SpecFlow plus Living Doc is a command line interface. Where is the call? Starting this quickly. This takes some data that is generated during the execution and will generate a single HTML file. And this is here. So it's a little bit similar. So I put this side by side that you can see it. That on the left side, no, wrong monitor. So we have here our features folder and our feature calculator feature. And we have the same in the specs project. We have the same structure here on the left. You also see the scenarios here. And you can select the bottom. We see auch the scenario outlines. The nice thing is you have here a preview and then get the correct stuff replaced here. And something what we added in the past, some weeks ago, is also the test output. And what I did is, at the end of the scenario, I'm outputting a link to the LambdaTest log of this. So of these add to numbers. When we click on this link, you can jump directly to LambdaTest. And now you can watch the video, what is really happening. So just quick. And that's what you see here. And so in a normal case, I did it locally, but the normal use case of this is that you have this in your CI/CD pipeline. So after you run your scenarios, you run the living doc, get the HTML file. So the nice thing about this is there's not a lot of files here, but living doc is a single HTML file, a little bit big, but single file that you can share, and you can upload this wherever you want. Send it by email, upload to the web server, what you want, and have all your scenarios, your concrete scenarios. You have the execution status, the output, everything here. And if you have a failing test, then someone, like here, we want to see this, and we enable test output. Then you can quickly go here and have a look at the video in LambdaTest what is happening. So now we see here that in this case the scenario is wrong because I said 0. Calculator is doing the right thing, but at the end the thing is missing, and we also see here that it's failed here. And this is done also with some nice integration. So I have here, the nice thing is SpecFlow has some for automation things, some lifecycle events. They are called hooks. And in this case, I'm using an after scenario hook, which is called after each scenario. And I have the two. The one is to add the link to the video in the output, quite easy. And the other hook is to signalize LambdaTest that it is failed. This is a one-liner, and you get the execution status in SpecFlow, so we are self-aware what it is, so we know in the after scenario it was okay or not. That's if it's not, call the API, and have also here now the fail state quite nicely in LambdaTest. Good. That's the easy execution. Now one other feature, and now I'll show you the configuration what I did it. SpecFlow Plus Runner has a nice feature called targets, and with this you can configure it so that your whole test suite, the whole scenario suite, are executed with different configurations. First, when I had no configuration, it falled back to the local. Now I added a target. First, enabled this Chrome Windows 10 target that we called it against LambdaTest. And now I added also the Firefox Win 10 target. Save this file and make a quick rebuild. And notice we have now 21 scenarios. And after the rebuild and the Test Explorer did a refresh, we should see 42 scenarios. Some of them are red, that's the old one, and now we have some new ones. That's the Firefox Windows 10 target. Targets are not limited to LambdaTest. I think you can do anything with that. And in this case, I'm combining it with LambdaTest, where you can now define here with we have a name, and then you can define the browser and the test OS. And this is here as a capability provided to LambdaTest. And when we now run these all, yeah, they're all getting started executed. Again, we have a parallel execution here. You can configure this nicely. I'm configuring now to 5 threads. So we should see about five running circles here. And we now go back to LambdaTest. We also see here now 5 running scenarios, and we have, okay, it's currently executing first all Firefox and then all Chrome, or vice versa. So it's one target and the other target, but still parallel execution. And as we all know, UI tests are often slow. So you see here 7-8 seconds, be able to run them in parallel and get to a fifth only of the runtime. It's quite nice. So that's nice. And so you saw.
Andreas, I'm sorry to barge in. I would just like to highlight something very important. If you could just go to the platform again, and
Sure.
as our viewers can see, we have on the top right 4 out of 5 tests which are running at present. And
Yeah.
since we have more than 5 sessions in queue, so the rest are getting in the queue, which is like 1 out of 150. So that's one thing amazing about the platform, that even though you can decide how many tests you can run in parallel depending upon how many sessions you've got, but in case you have more tests, they get queued one after the other and they still get executed. So
Yeah,
thank you.
That's quite cool that they also get queued and not simply canceled. They're still running. Yeah, 42 takes some time, but still quicker than, yeah, we would now only, not in parallel, we would already wait more than 8 minutes to have this, and we don't do this. So it's quite nice to have really to quickly get parallel execution with Selenium and on different platforms. That's really quite nice in LambdaTest, I must say. And I did some examples for Selenium Grid to self-host, and this is a pain. Always a pain to get it running. Yeah, here the parallel execution. What we also would also say in living document, in living doc, you will see also where is it? See that this is executed multiple times here. This light 2. So this is because also the multiple targets. Yeah, and I think that was the quick deep dive and showcase of SpecFlow, what you can do. I know that's only this small top what I showed you, but we are limited with time. Yeah, if you want to learn more, we're doing always webinars. Also, be on SpecFlow to get started with SpecFlow. Visit our website or reach out to me, and I'm happy to also answer afterwards all the questions you have about SpecFlow. And with that, back to you.
Thank you, Andreas. That was very insightful, and thanks a lot for building the base for me and showing our viewers what all the amazing things that we can do with both SpecFlow and LambdaTest combined. I will take away the screen from you. Could you confirm if it is visible?
Yes, I see some slides. Yes.
All right. So let me start off with what we do at LambdaTest. So LambdaTest is basically an execution platform that we offer. So it's not, we have more than hundreds of browsers and thousands of browsers and operating systems hosted on cloud. So you can come up and spin your website or web app across ready to fire machines, because in many cases, it's not feasible for you to have, say dozens or hundreds of browsers, which might be a part of your testing script. And that is the problem statement that we are trying to solve. We are giving you ready to fire cloud-based infrastructure. So you could come up and see how your website is spinning up across multiple browsers and operating systems at the same time. And in some cases, it's not going to be possible to, of course. For example, if I have Windows, I can't test my website on Safari browser. And vice versa, if I have a Mac operating system, I can't test my website on, say, Internet Explorer, right? So we solve all of those challenges. You can come up on the platform, pretty much pick whatever browser that you want to go ahead with, and just simply spin up your website and see how it's behaving. What we're building right now is what we have at present is, you can do Selenium based automation testing. And we have, that's going to be the primary focus of this webinar when I'll be pitching into the platform. But we also have live interactive testing available, where you can come up and interact with the entire platform manually. You can check how your website is behaving. You can come up and manually test your website or web app, for example. You can capture, you can also do screenshot testing, which allows you to capture screenshots in bulk across multiple browsers and operating system. These are full page screenshots. So you can pretty much, have a quick look at, multiple browsers and operating systems in one go. And then we also have a very handy utility for, developers and QAs, which is called LT browser, which is meant to help you, fast track your responsive testing efforts. And if in case you have not checked that out, make sure you do. And I hope it will be amazing experience for you. And yeah, so we have 2000 plus browsers and operating systems on our cloud. We have around 400,000 plus users, 100 more than 100 product integrations, third party. So we make sure that your testing workflows are as seamless as they can be. And we offer 24/7 technical support, and you get a lifetime free access to the product. So in case you've not already tried, make sure you do. Talking about integrations, we have, as I said, numerous integrations across the platform for pretty much every category. So we make sure that your life gets easier when you're trying to run your tests, because QAs are already, we can understand the pain point of getting stuck into email chains and challenges that come with continuous testing. So we have in case you don't want to slip up your bugs on the email chains, we have bug tracking, project management integrations, where you can simply uh, integrate your favorite project management tool with LambdaTest, and in just a single click you can mark your bug straight away from the LambdaTest UI to your project management tool. We also have integrations with instant communication tools like Slack, Microsoft Teams, Rocket Chat, through which you can directly report bugs in your favorite communication channels. We also offer integration with Codeless, and then there's CI/CD, of course, to help you make sure that you move continuous testing, move on a strong foot in the continuous testing direction. And then we also have some plugins on the Jenkins, and on the automation side, on which you can find on particular marketplaces. And framework wise integration is definitely there, as we just saw with SpecFlow. We run seamlessly with every framework that supports Selenium. So in case you are not aware of the platform, we give 100 minutes of automation testing for free, and make sure that you go ahead and see how the platform is spinning up. This is how the platform looks like. And let me just open any of these builds that I have on my dashboard. One thing I would like to highlight is we also have Cypress available. So in case you are a JavaScript fan, or you also like to work your way through Cypress, we support that too. So this is since Andreas already pointed that out earlier, that you can do assertions while defining your test cases, or pointing them to our remote WebDriver, our grid. You can pretty much assert and mark test as pass or fail at that time. So for example, here is a good example. We have a test which is failing in Firefox and Chrome, and it's passing in the other versions in the other area. So if I'll just quickly talk about what the platform UI is, because we are short on time. So one thing that we definitely saw is that you get to see the entire video recording, which is also demonstrated by Andreas, which is very cool. You can see how your tests are behaving, and this comes especially handy if you have complex large test case suites, test builds. Then you also have, we give you a variety of logs, so you can go ahead and see what is going wrong in case something is wrong. You have an exception tab over here, which will give you the reason why these tests are failing at which particular step. So you can pretty much come up and check those in detail. In cases where test is passing, you won't get any exception over here, which is going to be great, right? We all want that. And we also give command logs, where what we actually are providing here is we capture step-by-step screenshots for every Selenium command that gets executed. So you get to see every interaction that is happening in your web browser while your script is running. We also give network logs, so you can pretty much come up and see how all the assets are behaving across different network statuses, various get requests and other request get or post requests that you're getting. So you can pretty much come up and check how everything is working over here through your own, right from your services to all the way your media elements. At the end, we also have like Selenium raw logs. So in case you want to get into you want to deep dive into the Selenium raw logs, you can find that too, and you can figure out what's exactly happening throughout the platform. And definitely we have metadata, which talks about pretty much everything, as to right from your test ID status to what the name is, what the build name is, and resolution and everything. So you can pretty much come up here, and the part where I was talking about the integrations end, right? So you can pretty much create an issue from here as well, or you could also go to exceptions or command log. Let me just go to command because this one doesn't have anything in exception. So you can mark a bug from here as well. And what that will do is, if you have a favorite project management tool integrated with LambdaTest, this bug will go to that particular project management tool. For my instance, I have Azure DevOps integrated. So once I see that, this is the bug, and I could just pretty much go ahead and mark it over here. I can assign a priority. I can see, who is it being assigned to, which project is it going. And since I also have Slack integrated for instant communication, it can go to both the channels at the same time. So let me just quickly create an issue. Okay, so my Azure DevOps details are incorrect, but anyhow, this is how you can do it. I will reschedule those details after we are done with the session. Don't want to waste time here, but you can pretty much go ahead and mark a bug in just a single click from here. One thing I would like to highlight is we give capability generator from here, which will allow you to make sure uh, to get your desired capabilities right through point and click. You can pretty much come up here and decide whichever machine it is that you want to run your test upon, and the capabilities class will get adjusted according to that particular operating system or browser. And you will get that across all the languages, and you can pretty much come up and just copy it from here and put it into your capabilities under your Visual Studio or any ID that you are preferring to use. You can also run your test from multiple geolocations. So that's the benefit of having some of the advanced configurations. In case you want to see how your website is spinning from different IPs, you can pretty much come up and test it from here. By default, some of the advanced configurations are set to false. Like, for example, I talked about command by command screenshots and video recording. So once you turn these screenshots on, it gives this visual capability to true, and that is where you get all the command logs which we saw over here, step-by-step screenshots. So by all means, feel free to go around and check the capability generator. It's very handy. Last thing I want to point out is that we talked about running multiple test cases at the same time, which is a very handy utility when you have large test bills, which takes a lot of a time. You want them to run faster, so you can leverage parallel testing with LambdaTest. I, for example, have 5 parallel sessions access, and I can run 5 in one go, and the rest will get queued, as we saw with Andreas as well. In case you want to figure out how many parallel sessions you need, we also have concurrency calculator, where you can go ahead and mention your test requirements, and depending upon that, we can declare how many parallel sessions you would be needing. You'll get an idea from there too. And that is pretty much about it. There's a lot to the platform, and I can certainly go ahead and deep dive in depth, but I would do that at a later point. We're running short on time. Last thing I want to discuss here is that we have Selenium based APIs, and this is how enterprise really like to use our product. They get to perform, they can get all the bulk information for every build on details. They can fetch it all from the LambdaTest account and present it in the report. They can also delete the entire build. You can do it one by one from here as well. If you go to the timeline, you can pretty much come up and delete any build that you want from here too. But in case you have multiple test builds running at the same time, you can leverage our LambdaTest APIs, Selenium-based APIs, to make sure that those bulk operations are going fine and are making sure that you move at a fast pace. So that was it about it. Make sure you go ahead and check the platform in detail, and that was it from my end. And yes, would you like to add something else, or we deep dive into Q&A?
Let's start with the Q&A.
All right. Alrighty, so Q&A, and so we have a lot of questions here, and let's start with what ꯚɪᴅᴇᴏ is asking first. So this one goes to you, Andreas. Is the test data customizable? If yes, then what all formats of data it is accepting? I mean, Excel, CSV, DAT, etc.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me please share my screen, then I can.
Okay, I'll just
show
stop
a little
sharing mine.
bit.
Yeah.
For it. So back to the feature files. So you can always change this in the feature files, the data. There are some plugins, at least one plugin from us, that you can get the data from an external source. In that case, it's a JSON file, and we also had in the past something with Excel. The idea is, it's then for test automation, when you only use it for test automation, you could do that. For when you go to living documentation, understand it. If you have this then separated in two things, so you have only this here, and all the data for your concrete example is in a second source, that makes it again hard to understand, and also then hard to talk with your customers, with your shareholders, if they should behave the same, because they now need to look at 2 points and match this. So okay, first number, good, let's look in the other file. First number is that, and then second number. So it's getting you lose readability and understandability if you do this. Technically, it's possible. We have also something for JSON files called SpecFlow.external data. But I would really think about it if you want to use this, for what I want to use this. The use case what we have for SpecFlow as external data is like for classical validation stuff. So you have then defined your 35 wrong email addresses and your 40 right email addresses, and you use them in there, because this would then, again, this would pollute the scenarios, and if you need this multiple times. But it's more for the general data. For custom data, I wouldn't go that way. So yes, but is the answer.
Awesome. So in case you have any follow-up questions as well, ꯚɪᴅᴇᴏ, by all means, feel free to drop them over this. We'll be happy to explain that too. Another question from Ｖɪᴅᴇᴏ, he asked, how it can be used for CI/CD. I mean, can I schedule for a nightly build?
Sure. The nice thing is, because SpecFlow is integrating or is using the existing .NET testing frameworks like NUnit, MS-Test, NUnit. At the end, these are NUnit, MS-Test, and XUnit tests, or SpecFlow plus runner tests, and we all integrate again in the VS Test infrastructure. That's how it's called, for executing tests on the .NET platform. And you can not only do this in Test Explorer, what is using VS Test, but also do this in your CI/CD pipeline. There is 2 command line tools. This is one time is .NET Test for .NET Core stuff. And you also have VS Test, the VS Test console, XE, what can full framework and .NET Core. So it's the SpecFlow scenarios are for executing nothing else than a normal unit test.
Awesome. So one more question from ꯚɪᴅᴇᴏ is, looking at the demo test script, this is a little longer, so please bear with me. Looking at the demo test script, the inferences number of spec files getting added, or the lines is more for a simple scenario. What about a large and complex scenario? Does it not take more lines? And how can you differentiate between an open source like Selenium on Java and this in terms of ease of use?
Good. The first thing I have now here, and I will share this. This is our example report. I shared this link in the chat, and I'll find it. And where is the chat window gone? Thanks, Zoom. If I could, there it is. So I sent this to everyone. This is a more complex scenario, it's a bookshop. And there we have some more complex features. Yes, for sure. Where we have a home screen, do we have them more? Yeah, for sure. If your application is complicated, you get more steps. But then it depends where we have some. Then it depends again how you formulate it, what you really need, what not. So like here, it's the shopping cart feature about adding stuff to the shopping cart. And yeah, adding books to shopping cart, we have a given. you have already something in the shopping cart, then I place something in the shopping cart, and then I have two items, one analysis patterns and then one domain-driven design. And because this is also done with UI test in the background, if you look at the code or against the API. But you don't need all this UIs. We leave out the whole UI stuff there, and we can still get it to some quite short scenario. That's, but I wrote and I saw really big scenarios that don't fit on a screen. That's the stuff. Write more reusable steps and have more, or write more custom steps for the different features and scenarios to combine more stuff together. That's up to you. I would go with the latest Hedemir. And important is treat your test code as first-class citizen. There is no difference between your application code and the test code. Use the same patterns. You use a production code on your test code. Do layering, and then you can get nice API internal to do your automation, and get then with a quite short scenarios. First part. Second part is SpecFlow is using Selenium. So SpecFlow, I showed you an example of Selenium, but SpecFlow isn't limited to only Selenium. You can use REST-Job, you can use Playwright to automate stuff with it. As long as you can it's callable via .NET, you can use this for automation. And so it's not really comparable. It's Cucumber on Java is also not using Selenium. You can also automate anything what's callable in Java, and Selenium is one of the most used tools combined with SpecFlow and Cucumber, but not limited at all. So it's not really comparable.
So yeah, so Andreas, since you shared this repo, could you also share the sample framework that we use?
Sure. I merged it in between. So also in the examples repository, webinars, LambdaTest, I shared in the chat, and also in this repo, there we have nearly all of our examples for different features and different use cases, and also other webinars. So if you want to looking forward, that's how it's done. Look here in this repo.
So that answers our next question. And the other one is, can we control how many tests we can run in parallel?
Sure, that's easy. So for SpecFlow Plus Runner, we have a special configuration file. These are with the .sr profile ending. Normally you have only one, so it's default as a profile. We have here under execution a test thread count you can configure. And in this case, I have it on 5. What's nice thing about the runner is that we have different isolation modes between the threads. There can be none, there can be app domain, something in .NET to separate memory, but there can also be a process separation that really each thread runs in its own process. And so if you have some static values or some tests that would normally interfere with each other because of shared state, with that, it's quite easy. Send it into their own processes, and you have sometimes less problems with them, and gives you a little bit time to refactor your code and get the shared state away.
Yeah, and I would just like to add on to that as well from LambdaTest perspective. You can pretty much, depending upon how many parallel sessions you have, as I already talked about, as we saw that me and Andreas, we both had similar number of parallel sessions access, which was 5. So we could run 5 tests at the same time in parallel, but the rest of them still got queued, just making sure that, that message goes through again. So yeah, I hope we answered that question. And the next one is from Himanshu. Which test runner offers more advantages? NUnit test runner or SpecFlow Plus runner for cross-browser testing, considering that the backend infrastructure remains the same?
I'm biased because yeah, I worked a lot of the runner. In that case, the targets features of the runner is quite nice because you can quickly get the whole scenarios executed with different configuration. This is also possible in NUnit. You need to do a little bit more work on your end on your own. So this is makes it quite nice. It's hard. Every of the 4 test runners has some features that makes it individual and cool. And in your use case, you need this feature. And then I would choose this runner and not the other ones because of the features. So there's most of the stuff, the basic stuff can all do the same, but there are variances depending on your use case. Choose the runner that fits best for you. In that case, cross-browser tests the runner, but you can also use XUnit, NUnit, NSTest there. Some places more work, some places less work to get it running.
Alrighty. So the next question is, what is the evaluation criteria? Will you be able to provide evaluation for customers? What is the support and POC structure?
So provide evaluations with customers. So I'm doing, if you can, I have to do this. So if you want, and if you have enough people, you can get a personalized onboarding from me for your company. So what we're doing is we have once a month onboarding webinar, but we do also individual webinars for groups after 10. So simply mail us at info@specflow.org, and then we find there are some, you can choose from some topics, and I will do an individual onboarding for you. Support policy, support structure is we have support. We give support as best as possible as we can. SpecFlow is complete free. Also, the closed source is free. You don't pay us anything. So we want to help you, but we have no SLAs, so you can't. We don't have also now some paid support yet, so limited. But yeah, completely free, and half of it is open source. So it's there. But you reach out to me, and we find something.
In fact, Andreas has helped me and a few of my colleagues with a lot of challenges that we had because we weren't aware of the platform ourselves. So that's in fact how we got in touch with Andreas, and some of us are big fans of what he's trying to do for the SpecFlow community. I would just like to address that question from LambdaTest perspective as well. We offer support 24/7. That is something I covered in the slides too, but would just like to say that once again that in case you have any questions regarding anything using the platform, we are there. We are here to help you 24/7. Even if there are any questions which we are not able to address right now, but you might have them later, you can feel free to reach out to our chat support, and we have experts sitting there to help you out with pretty much anything that goes in and around Selenium or automation testing in general. So yeah, having said that, the last question that we have right here is, how do you import or run the SpecFlow scenarios in LambdaTest?
Good. I didn't need to do much here. I set simply the capabilities for the remote web driver. Especially we have here once the build capability, where I put the name. So from that comes this here, calculator Chrome Win10 and calculator Firefox Win10. And then for the test names here, this is the name capability, and I'm getting some runtime information of the scenarios with the arguments of the scenario, and do make some nice test name and use this in the capability And so you have here the whole number, and you see also the parameters. So first the scenario title, and then you have first number, second number, and expected results here in the title. And this is quite nice. So combine the capability, runtime capabilities of SpecFlow with the ease of adjusting in LambdaTest to get this data there, and that's it.
Yeah. So it's pretty simple to import your test cases. Making sure that if you want to switch your local test cases to LambdaTest Cloud, it's pretty simple. Really, all you need to do is just make sure that you have your username and access key provided in the script, and you define the capabilities from the capability generator. And yes, if you could just quickly, I don't want to waste time in screen sharing again. If you could just go to the platform, over the right side, you'll see the key icon, and just the key icon.
The key icon.
Yeah. So this is the username and access key. You can pretty much copy it from here, and they will help you define the WebDriver path, remote WebDriver path, when you are running your tests from the IDE. And if you go to the help section, as I pointed out earlier, you will see capability generator there. And this is where you define, which particular browser or operating system you want to run your tests upon, which conditions you want the test to run, and you can copy this to your clipboard and just paste it into your, IDE wherever the test builds are placed. Yeah. So that's pretty much about it. And with that, I think we are already 10 minutes past the deadline. So we don't have any further questions coming in. I would just like to give it a quick wrap here. Thanks everyone for joining in. Always a great, pleasure to host always a pleasure to host a great audience. And Andreas, thank you so much. We know you're doing amazing things there, and that you're very busy day by day. But thank you for taking time out of your schedule.
Sure.
And it has been a lot of learning for our viewers. I'm sure I'm thrilled to be hosting this webinar, and I'm sure our viewers must be feeling the same way as well.
It was a pleasure to be here. Here's some of my contact details. If you have questions, reach out to me. Can take you some time. I'm on vacation, not 2 weeks, but I will get back to you.
All right, then, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this session. In case you have any further questions, you can reach out to us later on through our support, or you could connect with Andreas, through his Twitter and email, as he shared. And thanks for everyone for joining in. Stay safe and happy testing. Bye-bye.
Bye.